Hello, good to meet you all. Again, my name's Cian Rackley. I work at Expedia Group. I've been with the business now for about 7 years. For the last 2 years, I've been in the US, and prior to that, I was based in Australia in Expedia's Sydney office. So I'll touch quite a lot on global relevance through some of the slides and how we've always tried to remain globally relevant at our local markets whenever we send emails, even when we don't have one-to-one messaging. This is what we'll go through. I'll give a quick introduction to Vrbo as a brand. Some of you may not have heard of it. And then I'll go through how we work with Movable Inc., some of our best examples or use cases, and then a couple of case studies at the end with some results and some visuals of those emails. So my present role with Vrbo, I mostly focus on Dream and Discover emails for the brand. To give some context of that, that's generally targeted at travelers or customers who they're not currently shopping for a holiday, they haven't recently come back from a holiday or a vacation, and they're not planning, we think, to go away anytime soon. So they're very lofty, inspirational, broad emails where oftentimes we don't have that one-to-one data, so we have to try and be as kind of broadly compelling and creatively compelling as possible to our travelers around the world. So you see the E for Expedia Group there in the corner. Expedia Group is a house of brands. So you may have heard of Hotels.com. Obviously, Expedia is a brand on its own. And then Vrbo. Vrbo is all about vacation rentals and holiday homes. Private holiday homes, we don't do room shares and things like that. You book something, you book the entire home. And in terms of a value proposition, what Vrbo is really focusing on is when we kind of explain our benefits to travelers, it's about spending time with people that you love, your favorite people, being together with them in a holiday home, and all of the memories that you get from those trips. Some of my favorite trips with my family have been in Vrbo's in Australia and in the UK and in the US. So let's move on. So how have we worked with Movable Inc. before? Look, I really probably should have broken these out to slightly different sizes, so it might be a bit difficult to see the detail in here. But as I said, these travelers that we try and talk to on a regular basis and keep them engaged with emails, and so when they do start thinking about traveling, they think of Vrbo for their next kind of holiday home getaway. They're visually compelling emails. They have to be, creative and relevant. And if you can't be, and one of the points yesterday that somebody made is static content doesn't need to be boring. And I say we always try and strive to make emails, even when we don't know exactly what you want to do. We want to try and make sure those emails are at least visually compelling. You want to see them, you want to open them, you want to learn more from them. And so we always try and do that when we're talking to these travelers, because they're not ready to book, but we want to keep them engaged and we want to offer them relevant content. And hopefully that comes across through these emails. And so with Movable Inc., these use cases here, and I'll touch on some more advanced use cases we've done with them, but with Movable Inc., we've actually found this a great tool to kind of drive that engagement and to offer up content that we necessarily don't have data for on a one-to-one basis, but it can still be relevant even when we don't have that data. So I'll move through these. We've got live polling as the first example, the Instagram plugin, which I saw a few times yesterday, the countdown timer, and weather forecast. So I'll start with live polling. And I'll say one of the great things about Movable Inc. is if I didn't tell you which bits Movable Inc. were powering, it might be difficult to decipher that. The creative control that we get means that we can make Movable Inc. content blocks look almost native to our emails. They blend in brilliantly. We can use our custom fonts, we use Vrbo's colors, Vrbo's logos, and it really make it part of the overall email design. So it's not incongruous, it doesn't look out of place. So this first one here, the live polling version, the Movable Inc. content block is where you can see the percentages, the 48 and the 52. This was sent fall, autumn time in North America. That time of the year, the weather's cooling down in quite a few areas, and people generally go to the sun for winter, or they go skiing, snowboarding, and they head to the mountains for the snow. Really important travel sites for the business. So just a very simple way we want to try and make that proposition a bit more interesting, and so we use live polling for that. When a traveler clicked on either of these, they were taken to a landing page with ski holidays or a landing page with sun holidays. We saw some really good performance results from that very simple integration. And as you can see, it fit really nicely in with the tiles at the bottom there that promoted destinations that really specialize in that kind of holiday. The next example is the live Instagram feed. This is actually an email we send when somebody returns from a vacation. So they come back, repeat rates to kind of the same destination you went to last time are not exact. So people tend to go to different destinations and they tend to go on different holiday types. So it's a good chance for us to say, well, where would you like to go next? Who would you like to go with? Is it a countryside cabin? Is it a snow getaway? Is it a beach house? Is it a farm stay? And we send this to our global markets. So our key markets are in Germany and France, Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, just a few examples, and obviously many languages. And so global relevance, so we don't want to send the same email to each of those markets. Of course, it's going to be localized and translated, but we want to ensure that the images we use make sense in those markets, right? Because holiday homes do look different across different geographies, okay? And so we always want to make sure that's the case. And this email, the images you see in the tiles there, they do vary by point of sale. Okay, so if you receive this email in Germany, it will look very different to the email you receive in, say, New Zealand. And we've always featured Instagram as a way of kind of introducing just a bit of social content into emails, but this is what we want to do in this case is say, well, how do we make that content a little bit more locally relevant? And we're very fortunate we have social teams around the world in different markets. And they spend a lot of time curating really interesting, fun, compelling content into their Instagram feeds. And so actually a really easy thing for us to inject just another level of local relevance into our emails was to use Movable Ink to power that Instagram plugin. And this was I guess it's kind of like training wheels use case for us, right? Like it's like we never worked with Movable Ink that much before. This was a really good way of just getting up and running, using a basic integration. But actually, we got some great internal feedback from this one. Like it was a really good way of our local teams delivering local content with no effort from our part. It just refreshes whenever there's a new post. And within this use case here, there's actually some cool little features. You can exclude videos. We did hashtag grouping, so we sent out I believe it was pools email, like homes with amazing pools. And so we could filter the images you see based on the hashtag of that post. So hashtag pools would be pulled into that module. Countdown timer, or as somebody put it, the email clock, is, again, I've seen this quite a few times since we've been here, but again, it's a really nice creative example of it blended in brilliantly into the hero image. We could do custom fonts. Our designer was able to integrate it into the header, so it didn't look out of place. And this use case, this example was from our Australia market. We have a local brand down there called Stays that I used to work with. Well, that was my brand when I was based in Australia. And I don't know if anybody's ever been to Australia. Obviously, as it is everywhere, summer travel is incredibly popular. It's, where it's cooling down here, it's midwinter here, it's the peak of summer in Australia. You need to start looking for that holiday home for December in July. It's incredibly busy. It's incredibly difficult to find anywhere to stay. And so, we want our travelers to have a positive experience. We want them to be able to find the perfect holiday home for them and their people, or their favorite people. And so we're always trying to say, start looking now, start shopping now. We don't want you to be disappointed. We want you to find that perfect home. This is just another really easy integration for us to introduce some urgency and to say, there's only 75 days until the summer. It's a good idea to start shopping now because we want you to be able to find your perfect home. And the final example here is the weather forecast. Weather's a really important element to travel. You always want to have, it can push you away from a destination. When it gets cold, you want to escape. You want to go somewhere warm, in many examples. But in this case, we were able to apply this to our key global markets in different ways. So the version you're looking at here, again, it's very difficult to know which bit Movable Ink are powering. In this case, the destination tiles you see here at the bottom You can see the little weather modules below. That's a live weather forecast for the next day for those destinations. This, again, is one of our kind of top-of-funnel emails that's sent to travelers who, as far as we're concerned, are not yet looking at holiday. We just want to give them interesting content, get them to engage with the email, and think about more where they want to go next. And so, again, we wanted something that was fairly easy for us to implement that kind of drove or raised salience with our travelers. And so this case in the US, what we wanted to do is say, okay, well, pick your favorite holiday type. Like, what's your kind of weather? This was sent in October time when it was cooling down. And so we wanted to be able to say to travelers, you know, if you want cool weather, how about Yellowstone National Park? If you want, you know, persistently hot weather, how about Maui? And it was just a really easy way for us to kind of like bring the destinations to life a little bit. This is the weather in Utah. This is the weather in Wyoming. And you know, why don't you go ahead and pick your kind of favorite climate, really? And what we're able to do in other markets is do a slightly different twist on this. We, in Northern Europe at this time of the year, as anybody who's ever lived in the UK will know that October is getting grey, it's getting cold, it rains a lot, and you know, it's a really good time if you want to extend your summer to head to the south of Spain or the south of Italy or Florida. Those winter sun getaways are always really popular. And so when we sent this same email in the UK, it had a different theme. It said it was extend your summer, go where it's still warm. Okay, it might be 5 degrees in London today, but it's still 24 degrees in the south of Italy. So we're able to take the same plugin and just do a very different theme depending on the local market in which we're sending it. So the same email sent on the same day, but we were able to kind of just adjust the theme slightly, use the same plugin, the same logic, but just make it that little bit more locally relevant for the market in which we were sending it. And the weather forecast app for this one, again, is, as I said, we don't have like that one-to-one data necessarily every time. So in this case, you know, all we needed to provide the Movable Link team was longitude and latitude and destination name. That was it. Like, that's easy to get for us. Like, we know what our top destinations are, we know the longitude, we know the latitude, and we know what it's called. And so this was a really straightforward integration. I mean, it kind of wasn't. It was a bit tricky in places because it was a new use case for us, but like, in terms of like doing this again, we know exactly how to do this again, and it's really easy for us to do. So these are some of the kind of, I'm going to say simple, but I guess more straightforward use cases you would deploy if you didn't have that one-to-one data with Movable Link. But that hasn't always been the case when we've worked with Movable Link. In fact, one of our earlier use cases, one of our most complex. We didn't necessarily start easy. I think something yesterday, I've seen different businesses with different, I guess, states of data availability. Some examples of like very kind of clean set of APIs that are dedicated to different products or SKUs or categories that seem to be somewhat easy for these businesses to access. That's not always the case, right? Like many businesses don't have that. They don't have a perfect data picture. They're not able to access all of the data that they would love to access on that day. It can take time and it's not always so simple. So this weather one is a great one. If you don't have that data, like that's a really good use case. But more advanced use cases we've worked with Movable Link on this one on the right here you can see, and this is a shopping email. So this is clearly my test because I was looking at Wales and Galveston in the same search in Texas, which I really doubt anybody would ever do. So this is a shopping email. It's one of our kind of top performing email types. If you look at Verbo and you punch in a destination and you look at dates, you know, if there's some compression data there's occupancy data that we want to raise to travelers, we will do that in search results. So if you're looking at Paris in June for a check-in in 2 weeks, we will tell you there's like 1% of homes available. Okay, but we didn't ever represent that in email. That never appeared in email anywhere. But it's really important for travelers to know that, and it's really useful for them to know that to make an informed decision. Like if there's 85% of homes are still available, okay, well, I don't need to look now. You know, I don't need to book immediately. I've got a little bit of time to kind of find that perfect home. But if we're down to 5% availability, yeah, I should probably start thinking about booking soon. And so this was a great example of using Movable to power that urgency module. It queried an API, it used check-in date, used checkout date, the destination, and then it was able to query an Expedia API and then pull out that occupancy level for travelers in email when they were searching. Again, a slightly more complicated use case. And we didn't ever have to roll this out, but I'd say one of the things with working with Movable was we were able to localize this as well for some of our key markets if we needed to, and adjust that messaging on Movable side, not on our side. So they could handle the logic on their side if we needed to kind of localize or amend that urgency message. So my point is this: use cases don't have to be complex. Small changes using simple data can subtly improve message relevance, both on a one-to-one and one-to-many basis. So our first use case, or our first case study, again, these are broad, kind of general messages that are sent to some of our larger segments. We leveraged Movablink's first name personalization. On the left, you can see the hero image just says dreaming of vacation, and on the right, it's got the traveler's first name in the clouds. It's a very subtle, small change. Again, we were able to use our own fonts and blend it really nicely into the image. That delivered a 14% lift in unique click rate, just that small change on the hero image that went out to a very broad audience. We love this one. It's easy to reuse. It's globally relevant. We can change the image depending on the point of sale. The left one there is the UK, and that middle example is from New Zealand. So that uses homes. The tiles are all homes from New Zealand, and that hero image is a hollow home from Queenstown, the Lakes District in New Zealand. So we're able to maintain that that local relevance, even though all these emails are designed and sent, from the US. And the setup was simple, and the fallback's great in this. We didn't have to worry about complicated fallback logic. The traveler would just see the image. So it's an equally compelling, interesting email. They just wouldn't see that first name if anything went with the integration, or for whatever reason we didn't have that first name. This next one is the top destinations map. This email here, you can see on the left, it's sent monthly to Brazil, to our travelers in Spain, to our travelers in Germany, and it's just a curation of our top destinations for that month. And we needed a way of reinvigorating it, refreshing it. I think it'd been running for about 2 years. It maintained, it was still a good, strong performing email, but we wanted to say, well, how can we make this email more interesting, more lively? And so working with Movable, workshopping with them, well, again, what do we need? We need a longitude. We need to know where this destination is. And once we know that, we can put it on a map. And so on the right there, you can see that this is a version from the US. That map with the blue pins represents each of the destinations you can see on the tiles. So it's just an easy way of saying, these are our top destinations. Here they are on a map. Again, it's subtle. It's fairly straightforward for us to implement. If that destination changes in 2 weeks, that map updates to reflect the tiles. We don't have to do anything. It just happens. And just that small change with that map was a 10% lift in unique click rates. And again, this is like a broad audience. This is not like a one-to-one message. This is a general message. To see that result from what is essentially without that one-to-one data, we were really, really happy with this result. It was simple. It was visual. It was easy to roll out. And again, it's global. We could send this email, localizing the copy, localizing the images, of course, to any of our global markets. And it would still make sense. Right? It would be a map of Germany. It would be a map of New Zealand. It would be a map of Spain. So this was a really good use case for us. And again, creatively, we had quite a lot of control with the map. We could define what the pins look like. It's clickable, so once you click on that map, it'll take you to a landing page that contains even more top destinations for that local market. And again, it's easy to set up and it's easy to scale for us. So thank you so much for your time. I hope this is useful. Again, the point I just want to make is, even when you don't have that one-to-one data, even when you don't have data coming out of your ears or you can't access the right product data, there's always something you can do. And you can do it creatively and in a compelling fashion. So any questions, please let me know. Thank you for your time.